You know, I didn't have this one on my bingo card. I really thought today GameStop was going to crack above 25. It was oh so very close. And we ended up closing today at 24.97. Close, very close, but not quite. Spend most of the day above that handle. Can't help but find that slightly interesting. Now, another interesting component to this, though, is the fact that we were bumping up against the point of control for the volume profile, which is what this is here. It just tells me where we were transacting the most within a specific time frame, in this case, a 3-month daily. There's a lot of people that are holding shares right now at 26.44, like somewhere around there. And if we go out to 6 months, it's kind of right around that same exact period, 26.48-ish. And then if we go out to a year, you'll notice it's still very close to that 26.62. The reason why that matters so much is because a lot of times when you look at different time frames, you'll actually see the point of control move around as people are buying at all different kinds of time frames. This doesn't surprise me to see a lot of selling happening as we get up to this point of control, because for a lot of people, this is where they've been holding for a pretty prolonged period of time. And some people are trying to get out at a profit. Now, whether or not the ape community is going to handle that and people not hodling, well, that's up to y'all to take a look at. I'm just telling you what I see here, which is people that are unwinding as they are getting back towards break even. Reminds me of that GIF or the meme of the dude that says, with the noose around his neck, and he goes, "First time." I feel like most of the apes have been here so long that being down under the point of control by $1 that probably doesn't even register at this point. But for some people, especially if they have reasonable sized positions that they've been holding for a year, say even back further than this, and then they're having an opportunity to unwind, that starts to look kind of attractive depending on what your disposition is as a trader and what you're trying to accomplish, which everybody needs to do what's right for them. Trading is an individual endeavor. I would call it an individual sport, but it's so physically inactive, it doesn't feel comfortable saying that. So let's take a look at the options chains. What are we seeing? Well, the very first thing is, compared to yesterday, volatility has now expanded actually quite a lot. And I don't think that that's coincidental. I think that we're starting to see a heavy amount of options activity. So when I look at this today, there was over 300,000 calls that transacted today and only 86,000 puts. Very heavy call activity. This has been hovering in like the mid twos, and it's even been down below 2 a couple times over the last week or so. So this is a reasonable surge in call volume, and it's very much centered around the 19 July and the 12 July expiration. So if I just look at those two, 255,500 of that volume are in these front two expirations, as you can see here. Now we have a little bit of a lone ranger all the way up here. And this is showing us in the 19 July, the 30s, there was 41,700 contract trades today. And if we just take a quick look at that specific contract to get a sense of how prevalent it was there any really big sizing? And apparently all of my alerts are going off right now. And there really weren't very many big trades realistically. So as I look at this, the biggest one I saw was the 30s. Now, what I did do is grab unusual whales, which I have a link in the description for anybody that wants to sign up with a small discount. I do get a kickback for that, but the main thing is if you like the tool, otherwise we can look at it together. And let's take a quick look at those 30s. We need to go to the strike, and we want to look only at the 30s for 19 July. And let's see, like there's some decent sized trades, but nothing too significant, right? 43,000, 37,000. This isn't like the transactions we've been seeing recently with a couple 200,000 plus dollar trades, which funny enough, there was somebody in my comments that was saying like they were expecting like a $20 million trade. And I was sitting there thinking, like, how crazy is this whole story that that's become the expectation, that it's boring until there's a $20 million plus position. And not only that, but there's a single dude that does that. And it's reality. We've already seen it before. The fact that that is part of the conversation here is so crazy to me. And it is part of the conversation, which is quite hilarious. So that's interesting amount of activity. But yeah, from here you can see it's a lot of activity for sure, but the majority of it, smaller trades, but tons of them, right? Tons and tons of 5 lots and lower. So there's a little bit of building out happening there. And then we also see quite a bit of activity in the 12 Julys resuming. So specifically at the 30s, which we have seen going off for a while, at the 26, which is relatively new. And then I would assume these are the 25s, which they are. So let's take a look now at the 12s, which are literally 2 days away. And we see overwhelming volume for the 26. That's interesting. 9,600 OI. And there's 20,636 volume today. That's a ton of opening positions no matter what. We see a bunch of opening positions here at the 26 and a halves, at the 27s. We see opening positions all the way out here at the 30s. So people very clearly are still building positions, even though there are 2 days left to go. Now we are coming up on a prospective start to another one of these cycles. We need to explore a little bit more. I actually have another live stream scheduled with Newton this coming Saturday at 1700 Pacific time, the same exact thing we did last week, but this time I have like 2 hours. So plenty of time to dig way further into detail. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about what we see happen this week. But there does look to be some positioning around that going on because there's 2 days left and there's 10,000 contracts at least that were open today here at the 26 handle, which is really interesting. Same thing here at the 25 handle, 17,500 contracts traded against 16,000 OI. So that's a lot of opening positions. The other thing is we had that homie that was in at the 10s. Let's see if they're still here. All the way out here at the 10s. Aha, they bounced. So wait, was it the 12 Julys or was it the 19 Julys? Let me see. No, this looks right. It looks like the 19 Julys because it looks like they're still there. I messed up. So yeah, because there was that dude that I saw come through buying the 10s, which was a little different, and it was a pretty meaningful size position. And it looks like they're still there because I remember there was around 300 OI. You guys can fact check me to make sure I'm not completely off base here, but I think that that's right. So what's the deal here? Well, a couple things. One of the things I notice is volatility is coming up here. This was really low. This was like low ones just yesterday and the day before. And now it's already starting to peak back up. So you could tell that the options market knows when there's expiration coming, shit gets weird. Like that's the trend, the overwhelming trend that I've started to pick up on since I've started following this more closely, and rightfully so. I totally get why it does that. When I look at most of the call transactions today, 33% of them were at the offer above, meaning they were buys. And on the put side, it looks like they were at the bid or below slight edge by 3 points. And that means that those are probably sells. So overall bullish leaning in the overall volume that we saw transacting today. Now let's take a look at the OI because this expanded a lot. Now we have 835,000 calls to 483 puts. So this is built out quite nicely. The other thing that you guys might notice happening here, I know I do, is there's way more of these 16 AUGs popping up here, 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 here. We're seeing more red squares popping up in here. That's important because this also means that there are people playing multiple cycles, right? Like for me, I was in the 16 AUGs and I actually just recently moved out to the 20 Septembers. But that's the way that I trade these things. It's very different than most people that I come across, at least in this space, that are really, really centered on these super short-term expirations. It's just not how I do it. So I don't find it anything other than conviction leading people out to establishing this far out at this point because it's still kind of early. We didn't see this kind of building in this 16 AUG, which in this case are 37 days out, we didn't see this kind of building in the prior expiration cycles, at least for the last few weeks. People have been playing the fronts very, very heavily. So another interesting data point here. So that's mostly what I'm seeing here. We have an expansion of volatility in the short term, without a doubt. I see 139, 134, 132, and then it starts to drop off a cliff from there. So my expectation would be, as like something like the 16 AUG gets closer, I would fully expect this volatility to start expanding. That's kind of the overall trend that I've been seeing. And it's also something I've actually started trading, because it has been fairly consistent thus far with meaningful moves, I should add. So as always, any questions, anything I should take a look at, let me know. Be an outlier. See you guys later.